All right, welcome everybody to the second meeting of SIG-Azure, and going to be a pretty short meeting today. Right now we have an open demo slot for the first 10 minutes if anybody is really interested in presenting a demo. I would ask that if you could enter your name into the agenda and notes for attending today, that would be super helpful. It helps us understand how thriving or not thriving a particular SIG is. Second is if there are things that you want to add to the agenda in work in progress that you've got underway, that would be great because we can talk about it if you want. And any PRs that need attention or review, and any specific updates that you have for releases or announcements. So the agenda doc, I'll link it again in the chat. It's also available at bit.ly/sig-azure. And basically, this is world editable, so you can go ahead and add your topics at any time. So without further ado, does anybody have something they'd like to demo this week? That sounds like a big fat no. So moving on. So work in progress. I have two items up here. Is anybody else? Does anybody else have anything that you'd like to add to the list right now for work in progress? Anything?
Hey, Jace.
Yes.
This is Cal here.
Hi, Cal.
How are you?
Good.
I have completed a plugin for Key Vault.
Okay.
A few weeks back, and it has been on my repo for quite some time now. I'm thinking, should we add it to 1.8 actions?
Let's review it for sure and see if it's a good candidate for 1.8.
Correct. I can send you the link to the code, and I can put together a demo.
That would be great. I'll put you down for the next demo.
When is the next iteration?
7.12.
7.12. I won't be there. I'm off, actually.
Okay.
So
7.26 is the one after that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I can, yes.
All right, I'm adding you to the demo list.
Yeah.
Great. And in the meantime, if you could post a link in the document, that would be great.
All right, we'll do that.
Okay, great. Anybody else have anything work in progress that you are looking at for 1.8? And also, it would be good to mention that 1.8 is technically a stabilization release. So the bar for adding features to 1.8 is going to be a slightly higher. There's also the work that's going to be done to abstract the cloud provider out, which is something we probably need to talk about as well, because that's a pretty big chunk of work. And as far as I know, it's not started. So that's something that we definitely want to keep a very close eye on this release cycle. So I'm adding that to the list. All right, so moving down the list of things and works in progress. We are still working on support for Azure Managed Disks. There's a pull request that's linked in the meeting notes. And basically, if anybody's feeling inspired, please review that, check it out, comment on the code. Right now, the majority of the reviews have been coming from Waman Chen, and it would be great to have more reviewers on that code. More eyes, the better. So that's my request there. If you have ideas about that, that would be great to have those. Secrets management, there is an issue that Brendan has up here, basically dealing with how secrets are stored for Azure storage driver. And I would request that if you could just take a look at that issue and add any pertinent information that you have there. This is pretty wide-reaching, so I feel like the more eyes we can get on this, the better, and that'll make it easier when we comes time to merge this into 1.8. Hopefully we'll get it in 1.8.
Aren't they changing the secrets to like plug in kind of scenario? There is a work happening there. I've seen Call posting something on Twitter around the design document for that. How is that relates to this?
That's a good question.
It's not really related. This is just about what namespace the secret for Azure files goes into, rather than, so it could go into Key Vault, it could go into whatever storage you wanted, but it's about the fact that the secret that's used to provision the Azure Files driver is different, or is visible to the user when it possibly shouldn't be.
All right.
Okay, so we got your key vaults right. So cloud provider breakout is really interesting because that's going to obviate a lot of this work that we're doing, and it's going to make it's a gift and a curse, I guess, because it's going to allow us a tremendous amount of control and flexibility over how we handle the cloud provider, but this is a reasonable amount of work. So what I'd like to do is establish a working group around this, and that working group I know for sure some of you are going to be really interested in participating in. So what I'll do is I'll send a email to the Azure SIG-Azure group with details on the working group, and we'll find a time to meet. But this working group is probably going to have to meet more frequently than the primary Azure SIG, because there's a ton of work to do. We need to break out the stories necessary to understand the spec about how the calls are actually passed to the cloud provider. What does that look like? What is the implementation? And all that good stuff. There's a tremendous amount of work there. So stay tuned for some updates on that. Pull requests needing review. It looks like somebody has an issue here, which is 47511. Is the person who put that in present?
Well, it's not, yeah, it was me. It was not really a PR, but
okay,
it was more of a question to see if what's the expected way for cluster autoscaling, for cluster node autoscaling to be supported eventually. Is it going to be ACS only or outside of ACS? I think this person opened up the questions regarding his tool, which is the cluster autoscaler, I think. Let me see.
Yeah, Martin. So yeah, I've had some conversations with Martian about this, and I'm not completely sure I totally understand what he's getting here. Brendan, have you looked at this issue yet or no? We may have lost Brendan.
So to me, it was just to really know where should I put my focus, because node autoscaling is something we need to start looking into like quite soon, and doesn't seem to be any official or what's the next step or the next technology that I should be focusing on. And this popped up while I was reviewing which technology to pick. So I was wondering if you guys had any clue on this. Or
I don't have any clarification specifically on this. Anybody else in the meeting have anything they want to add on that?
To me, I mean, it seems like the tool is relatively tightly scoped and useful, so it would be nice to see if it meets your operational requirements for auto scaling. And I think its approach is generally look for pods in a pending state and then add capacity until they end up getting scheduled.
Yeah.
Which I think is going to be like one of the big characteristics that'll be interesting to see if that fits with what you need to have done.
Yeah. Well, let's take this as an offline action item, and we'll just see if we can. I'll check in with Marcin and find out what the status is on this and get some more info, and I'll actually update that issue once I know. So I'm assigning that to myself.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Okay, anybody else have any PRs that they want or issues that they'd like to look at? Okay, great. Moving on to release updates. 1.8 already has an alpha out and is in the process of being organized. Right now in the release repo, or the release section of the repo, is not got any tree associated with it, but I'm anticipating that the SIG release will have that in place in the next week or so. Also filling out the release team. And right now, the person who looks to be tapped for the primary release manager is Marinubi, and the rest of the release team is TBD. There is a chance that I might be shadowing Maru this particular release and possibly on tap for 1.9. That's very tentative at this moment, but we'll see how that goes. 1.7 it still looks to be on point. If anybody here is members of other SIGs, there is an open call right now to update the release notes and make sure that anything that is an impacting change is documented. It would be good for us as a SIG to review that documentation as well, to see if there's anything that could be impacting Azure use, or maybe people who have not updated or want to update and experiment with that version. So it would be good to know or have more eyes on the release, just generally speaking, the documentation. 1.6.6 was released a week and a half ago. It had 2 security fixes in it, one of which was Azure, one was Google. And if you want to understand more about that release, that the release documentation, I actually wrote the release notes for, and there's a specific section in there that outlines what exactly was happening and why it was necessary to patch it. The reporter was kind enough to take me offline, and we got this thing fixed within 24 hours, and Brendan did the code fix on that. So thank you very much, Brendan, for the extremely fast response and getting that handled. But it's good to know that we have a solid security posture in place, and that we're able to rapidly remediate anything that could be in the cloud provider code. So if you have questions about that, let me know. But the release notes should hopefully have everything you need, including a link to how to remediate the issue on a running cluster without necessarily having to upgrade to 1.6.6. And anything else in announcements? Okay, I guess that's it. I sincerely appreciate everybody's time and attention and attendance. And I will see you in 2 weeks, and keep your eyes out for the working group to be organized around the cloud provider breakout. So thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Bye.